And we're live. Hi, Mel. How you
Hi,
doing?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for agreeing to talk with me today. So I had this idea. I was just thinking about what we were going to do for one of our other lives. As you know, some of you know, we do the Relational Intelligence Lab, and we've been covering some topics. And I was thinking, oh gosh, you know what? I'd really love to just do a separate live, just talking to you about, Center for Erotic Intelligence and erotic intelligence in general, and sharing this concept that I think is so fascinating. And so thank you for agreeing to indulge me in this interview. So yeah,
Thanks for thinking of me. I love talking to you. You're like one of my
I
favorite
know.
favorite humans to riff with, so I'm excited.
I know. I'm always, every time we get together and we talk about, just relationships and, our life experiences, I always just feel like it's like a nice brain massage, I just feel very nourished. And yeah, so I always like come back and tell Bea that. Um, let's start with a little bit. People are coming in. People are coming in. So we'll just start with a little bio. One of the things, so for the Substack and for the kind of promo of this talk today, there's a photo of Mal from actually one of the places that we met. I don't know if this was the first place that we met, but it was the Future of Sex podcast recording in Williamsburg. And I think it's the first time you were on a panel with Holly, Dr. Holly, and Tammy Nelson.
I think
And
that one was Tina Horn, and then Bryony, the
okay,
host, of course, and then
yes,
Dr. Nelson. And I'm kicking myself. I believe there was one other person on there, but I think Holly was on a different one.
okay. I was kind of thinking that was that was that very moment, but I remember coming to see you speak at that one. So I love having that. Love having that photo as the promo. And I remember I was actually following you before we actually met in real life. So I'd
Wow.
been following your work. Yes. And I remember that you had DM'd me. I think it was at Sexual Health Expo. And you were like, I saw you across the room, but, I didn't get to say hi because we were kind of interacting online. It's such a weird world. But yeah, so we met through this great community, and yeah, it's been very fun. But let me introduce you to people who haven't been following you before they met you. um, Mal Harrison is a clinical sexologist known as the relationship revitalizer. As as resident sexologist at the Museum of Sex, which is how I came to know you, her 2011 research on the internal clitoris went viral, changing how millions understand their own anatomy. Since then, she's delivered a TEDx talk on desire, been featured everywhere from Wired to the New York Times to Netflix's Follow This, and now leads the Center for Erotic Intelligence as executive director. And she writes about erotic intelligence on the Erotic Intelligence Insider here on Substack. And today we're going to talk about erotic intelligence and why it might just be the key to fixing how we connect. So that's the intro. Welcome, clinical
What a
sexologist, relationship.
mouthful. Thanks, Sheila.
I love the relationship revitalizer. I love that. That is something wonderful to be known as. So let's just start with erotic intelligence. Like, how do you define that? Like, if somebody is hearing this term for the first time, and I think people struggle, and I asked this question on Substack as well, like just the term erotic, I think that there's a lot of confusion around what it is. And I'm wondering, like, how do you define eroticism and how do you define erotic intelligence?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, if you start with the base of the word, eros is life force energy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
So, I sort of define eroticism as a current, an underlying current that exists in all of us. And if we're
Hmm.
able to tap into it, which we're not always tapped into it all the time, but it
Hmm.
is, some people might call it somatic intelligence or
Hmm.
consciousness or awareness. There are all sort of different names. And when people say, what is erotic intelligence, you often hear things like vitality and curiosity and creativity and vibrancy. But it is the current that enables you to make meaning out of things, to keep going when things are tough, to
Hmm.
play when
Hmm.
things might not feel so playful.
Hmm.
And it's really it's a powerful force, just like Eros. It is this life force energy, and I'm the antithesis of a woo woo girl, but so I try to distill it down, erotic intelligence specifically, into five main ingredients, and I use a hand as a metaphor. So
I
there's
love that.
four. There are four
We love
ingredients.
using hands.
Yeah, I'm like so many dirty puns in my mind right now, but so emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
social intelligence, super
Hmm.
important. Obviously, I'm going to kind of explain them. So emotional
Yeah.
intelligence, being able to regulate your emotions at any given point, handling disappointment, or handling, exuberance and joy and not overreacting to that, and being able to stay grounded so you can move
Yes.
to the next thing. Especially in creativity and flow, we get very excited that we did this thing. And instead of keeping going, we go, oh, and, we're stunned.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
um, but it's
Overwhelmed
also,
by our own energy and interests, right?
yeah, it's almost like, whoa, how did that happen? Um, it's a wonderful feeling. So, emotional intelligence isn't just for regulating negative
Hmm.
emotions, it's also for sort of harnessing positive emotions.
Hmm.
So, there's that piece of it. There's social intelligence, which is super important, I think, for dating. It's picking up on body language, bodily cues, knowing when it's appropriate or inappropriate to say things, knowing when, we can push boundaries within relationships, or even walking down the street, encountering a stranger or something in nature. And then you have body attunement. And that's something I've been writing a lot about lately. How do we, intuitively feel when a situation is icky, when we should maybe leave, when we should
Hmm.
stay? A lot of
Hmm.
people aren't really trusting themselves, especially when it comes to dating. And I
Hmm.
definitely think technology is a big piece of why we're not trusting ourselves anymore, because we are
Yeah.
internalizing so many stories every day that we're watching on
Hmm.
our phones. And then there's creative imagination. So these are the four that we have
Hmm.
so far. And creative
Hmm.
imagination is the ability to, make the lemonade out of lemons. It's the
Hmm.
ability to rewrite a narrative, instead of saying, well, this situation turned out because of this one person or this one element. Maybe we could rewrite the narrative and think of it in a whole new way and think of it in a whole new lens, which, as a
Hmm.
practitioner, I know you're well aware is very
Yeah.
much behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
But it's also where something couples can use to play, and to
Hmm.
think, to shapeshift. And then the
Right.
fifth is the thumb on the hand, and that is self awareness. And that's kind of where you incorporate all those things into knowing.
Right. Hmm. Right. 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 I love that self-awareness is the thumb because it's kind of like you need your thumb to be able to grasp anything, right? So that just being the anchor, right? The way to really understand all of those things is like really powerful, and I love that. So when was the moment that made you realize that erotic intelligence like needed its own name, its own framework, separate from traditional sex education or just, relational education in general? Oh, Jesse's here. Hey, Jesse. We'll get to your question too. Hmm. Oh God. Hmm. Right. Right. Washing the makeup off. Oh my God. Just like, oh, please. Yeah. Mm, right. Mm, right. Right. Hmm. Right. Inadequate. Yeah. Or, I mean, is it even existent? And for a lot of people, it's just, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. 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 Right. 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 Yeah. And I always say, like, we're rarely given a relational education, right? Like we are given a relational socialization, right? So it's, through watching people in our community or our parents have their relationships. There's a lot of modeling. There's a lot of, I think you talk about opera, and having, those stories, like the stories are like usually like, really, girl, you're gonna do that? You're gonna die. You're gonna die if you do that, right? And it's almost like a lot of times, like, you'll hear like Alexandra Solomon will say things like Disney did us dirty, right? Or, I was just talking to somebody the other day, a client who was like, I don't really know how to have a relationship, and I feel like my mind has been scrambled by rom-coms of the 90s, and it's true, like we kind of absorb these things, and we're expected to just go and be able to know how to do these things. So how wonderful that, you were able to like take all these questions that were specifically about, like, specific, like the insecticide, to clean one's genitals is like a pretty like concrete question, right? Like, is this the right thing to do? But like taking that all the way into like, okay, like where what is like the holistic relational and sexual kind of education that people need. And I love this erotic intelligence. Yeah. Wonderful. Amazing. So, yeah, please. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And whose bodies deserve pleasure, right? And how do we also the internal clitoris thing was huge because it's like because it's huge. It's much bigger than most people think it is, right? So just like understanding that about one's body is just incredibly empowering, to I mean to use a completely and totally overused words. So you mentioned using this in school, like this framework, this erotic intelligence. So how did you kind of start like distributing the distributing the information and kind of this messaging out into the world? It sounds like you started with young people. Hmm. Nice. Hmm. Hmm. Right. 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 Mm. Hmm. 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 Right. 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 Yep. You don't have to tell me that. No, that's, I mean, that's definitely, yeah. But then think about all of the people who have been able to go through your program, should they become parents, they have the information. So, maybe you don't get them, maybe we're not quite at the Netherlands level. I mean, not even remotely, right? I mean, you could tell me more about like how they educate, kids in schools around these things. But yeah, I mean, at least you're getting them in college, which is great, which is great. Oh, absolutely. Right. Right. It's not 101. Let's just say it's not 101. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's like the Disney doing you dirty opera and rom-coms on steroids, but for like sex acts, which, there's even more, kind of shrouded in mystery and taboo and all of that. So, yeah. Yeah. So, tell me, like, as far as this erotic intelligence and teaching it in schools, like, what would you say, like, how does this also translate to like adults who want to learn how to be more erotically intelligent? What are some skills or what are some practices that you encourage folks to kind of look at or implement in their lives? And where do they start? I mean, the thumb, I would guess like the thumb. The self-awareness would probably bring them to even be curious about it, right? Mm-hmm. Mm, yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Right. 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 Whoa. I'm not checking the chat. There you go. Hmm. 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 Yes. Hmm. Awareness of your emotions and being able to kind of be sensitive to another person's emotions, like understanding that that's, dynamic, right? Mm. Yeah. None of us are perfect. Yeah. Not even us. Yeah, I don't think so. Trying every day. But yeah, no, I think that also the self-compassion for having the desire sometimes I think is like really a thing because sometimes there is underneath, it's easier to feel angry, as you said, it's easier to feel like all of these other emotions. But once you kind of tap into what you want, then you have to have compassion for yourself for like not directly going for it or for ignoring it for a long time, or feeling afraid to look at it head on and go for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. What are you willing to do to get it, right? And like what are, understanding that it's not something that's just handed to you, it's something that you cultivate, and it's also like within your dynamic with another person, right? How you inspire each other. Right. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm. Yeah, and I think it's different. Like erotic optimization is very different than erotic intelligence, right? Like erotic optimization makes me think of, maybe like that one taste cult or whatever, where they have that that stroking practice and it's like this is what you need to do and I know it's much more there was a lot of other stuff going on there. But the intelligence really speaks to like a presence and like a plasticity around how you're thinking about your partner, yourself, just what you're creating and it's a creative process, right? That's key to it, it feels like. Myth and really opposite. Okay, so speak to that. CUV. Yeah, that's erotic optimization. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Is part of erotic intelligence also kind of dismantling these kind of assumptions about, for instance, like just hitting one specific spot or, how pleasure is to be experienced or what makes for, good sex versus, whatever, not great sex or romance or how, I'm really curious about that because I have to dismantle a lot of myths constantly about pleasure and what's good or what's right, what's good enough. You know, some people will tell me like they have never had an orgasm with a partner, and then I find out it's just not through penetration, in a heterosexual couple, and they've been having tons of orgasms in other ways, and it's always a little bit surprising to me. So I wonder how erotic intelligence could speak to that kind of phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Okay, mama's boy. Yeah. Can listen to him about other things besides sex, you know? What a time to be alive. Right. Yeah. Mm. Hmm. Hmm. Right. Hmm. 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 Love her. Yeah. Right, right. Yeah. And also, like, if you are experiencing pleasure, however you're experiencing it, if it's, if it's consensual and pleasurable, as our friend Dr. Holly says, it's good sex, right? Like, if it's consensual and it's pleasurable, that's it, right? And so, I think part of erotic intelligence to me feels like it would be like honoring the way that we experience pleasure and not defaming it or not minimizing it because it doesn't fit into a societal norm of what pleasure should look like, which is sometimes when I talk to people about like what is erotic, they get really tripped up on the whole concept because they think it has to be like one kind of specific act, but it's, they're the thing that ignites their imagination, that creates emotion within them. That is something that is just more than just, well, this position or that position or, you know, how I look. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, book the room, but like, it doesn't have. Yeah, no. You're like, this is mine. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's I love that, the idea that it's also the erotic is something that can be so personal, right? Like it doesn't have to be performative unless maybe you're an exhibitionist or whatever, but like that it's something that is, you know, I love the idea of like a sunset, something that's like a sensual kind of experiential thing that's not necessarily having to do with the just the act of sex too, right? Like it can kind of create and inspire you for something bigger than yourself or inspire you to explore something, that you might not feel, the courage to do, but like because you feel so kind of in the moment, you're able to kind of tap into that. I love that. I love that. Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, what's a belief about sex, relationships, or intimacy you personally held earlier in your career that you've maybe revised since working with people or since, being in the field? Mm. You're like, I don't want to add to the issues in society around, misleading people that like what they're doing is working or that it's this easy or that, you know, like that kind of thing. Mm. Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, right. You don't want her to have anything to compare it to, right? Yeah. Yeah, they haven't gone away, and that generation has to go through their, and obviously there's a lot of other stuff going on, but like their own awakening to that kind of stuff, right? It's the dismantling of that bullshit is generational. Every generation has to dismantle it, you know? Yeah. Hmm. I mean, I always say, like, when you sweep the things under the rug, you get a really bumpy rug, and somebody's going to hurt themselves. Somebody is going to twist their ankle and break their legs because that's a lot of stuff to put under the rug, you know? And a lot of mites, a lot of dust. Let's see what we have some comments here too on maintenance sex. Sex is like pizza, even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. I mean, that's, true, I guess, sometimes. Also the O gap is so ironic because men love to brag about their ability to satisfy a woman. Yeah, that I think it's like the orgasm gap meeting, faking orgasms, and then you have that bragging, those bragging rights, right? I think it's really it's kind of that's one of those snakes that's eating its own tail, you know? Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a fascinating thing. Show don't tell. That's what I say. When people are bragging, say show don't tell, you know? And also Jesse also shared luck is believing you are lucky. Tennessee Williams, I'd add that erotic is believing something is erotic. Yeah, I mean, we imbue things with meaning, right? And, what's erotic to one person might be just like a total turnoff for another person, right? But I like the framework of erotic intelligence as a way to kind of think about it, try to approach it, approach those kind of whatever is erotic to you, like that, the self-awareness, the emotional component, being aware, body awareness, being attuned, I'm missing social justice. Creative imagination. Yeah. So I love that. I love that framework. How do you apply this for work? Like, as you say, from the bedroom to the boardroom. And so I'm wondering, like, how does that help people in work? Yeah. Right. Mm. Hmm. 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 Oh yeah. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm. Hmm. Yeah. Right. And it's a way to kind of resensitize ourselves and engage our whole selves, right? Not just like our intellect, our body, our emotions, everything. It's very dare I say holistic? The hoe and the holistic practices. Um, I asked on Substack, just, what do you find, what comes to your mind when you hear the word erotic? And mad philosopher Jesse shared, I can eroticize just about anything. I like to read books, then a comparable movie or an activity for a date night or an evening home. Just finished Notes from the Underground. Oh, light and fluffy. Working on the Count of Monte Cristo. Um, but we're still working on the Seven Samurai as well. It's 4 hours. The fact that we've yet to finish it after 3 weeks says it all. And the Kirk Douglas version of the Odyssey. I love it. I mean, he's found a partner that values this type of activities as much as I do. Huge classic movie buff, more so than I, and it just works. That's amazing. It's beautiful. You share, and I don't know if people would think of that as erotic, right? Like I send these questionnaires out to folks and they wouldn't be like saying watching a film or, reading a book. And so that's a really beautiful example. And having someone to share that with is even it's even more fun, right? I mean, and you don't even have to. Like it's okay for you to have something that is just erotic to you and you bring that energy and that vitality to your relationship, even if your partner's not into it. Like maybe ping pong makes you feel alive and they're like, who gives a shit, but that's that bring it, And then Ricardo said, erotic to me is different, over the board, sexy, intimate, pleasurable. So that can also be that kind of classic idea of what eroticism is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. The double flame, yeah. Hmm. Yes. Yes. I love that. Yeah, that's something that, yeah, I haven't thought about that work in a long time, but that is, yeah, incredible. Yeah. I think that sometimes when people struggle with defining it, it's because we have lost the ability, or we're not as practiced as seeing the poetry in it, right? Seeing the poetry in our connection and in sexuality, or even in connection, romance, relationships, even friendships, just with our connection to life, to Eros, as you said. And it's hard for people to define because we don't have that much of an emphasis on it, right? So, yeah, yeah, truly. Truly. Well, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing about your work and your perspective. If people want to find you, if they want to engage with your work, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Thank you. And let me ask you just one more question before we go. Can you leave us, me, and everybody who's watching with one thing that we can do this week to get in touch with our erotic intelligence or to start cultivating it? Like, what's one thing that we can do? Mm, mm, mhm. I love that. I'm definitely going to do that. I need to do that. Sometimes it feels like if we have a stressful day, if we're going through, we're just kind of like a floating head. So, kind of trying to ground and notice. And we're going to get Ellen Langer on this one day on the relationship, the relational intelligence Substack. I am going to manifest that. Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for the woman that you are. And I can't wait to hang out with you this weekend. Okay. Thanks everyone who came and I'm sorry we didn't get to questions, but we will answer them, or I will make a separate Substack answering them. So, okay. Bye.